Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Capital One Bank, New York Community Bank, Eastern Consolidated, M&T Bank, Sterling National Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Customers Bank, Ariel Property Advisors, Dime Community Bank. Additional funding has been provided by AmTrust Title Insurance Company, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, JP Morgan Chase, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Real Estate Organization, Handro Properties, Hodges Ward Elliott, Inc., Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Bank, New Banks, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Marinkoff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Organization, Moynihan Capital Partners, and these friends.
Buffalo, New York, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, parochial school, tough kid in parochial school, public school, working in a sewer plant, construction, test tubes, immunology. I like immunology. St. Lawrence first, University of Rochester later, Oxford, Thomas Watson Scholar, Fulbright Scholar, John Hopkins, transplantation, kidneys, the director of the Transplant Institute at NYU Langone, Dr. Robert Montgomery. Thanks for being here.
I feel like my life just passed before my eyes.
We did it in 32 seconds. That's part of it.
Sounded so interesting.
Okay, we were figuring it out. So tell me about your father's side and then your mother's side.
Sure. My dad's name was Montgomery, as is mine, obviously. And his family originally was from France, and then they emigrated to Scotland, and then to Northern Ireland, and then to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Right, and they arrived in Pittsburgh when?
In the early 1800s.
Right, now you said to me one of the families was involved with fought in the Civil War, was it?
Yeah, John Milton Montgomery. So he was my great-grandfather.
Okay, so that's on Dad's side. He was
on Dad's side. He fought for the North in the Civil War. It was a dandy.
Okay, Mom's side.
Mom's side comes from Ireland and Luxembourg. And the Irish part of the family came over during the potato famine.
Okay, how did Mom's side end up in Pittsburgh?
Family, my grandfather came to Pittsburgh to work in the
coal mines?
Well, no, in steel mills. And he then sent for his family some years later to join him, but he went over first.
Now, you said your dad was in the war.
My dad was in World War II, yeah.
Right, and
his father was in World War I.
Right, and because he was in World War II, he was able to have the GI Bill.
Yep.
And where'd he go to college, your father?
He went to Carnegie Mellon, which at that time was Carnegie Tech.
Carnegie Tech, right.
Yeah.
And how'd he meet Mom?
Well, so my mother was actually working on a biology degree. She was the first one in her family to go to college. And so she was a graduate student. And she was a teaching assistant with all of these young GIs, you know, who were coming back. And so they met. They met some years before that, actually, before my dad went overseas to the South Pacific. And then when he came back to Pittsburgh, they reacquainted. And my dad wasn't having all that, you know, her being the instructor with 50 young GIs.
So he said, we're getting married.
We're getting married, we're going to have a family,
Right.
and you're not going to do this anymore.
Now, you had mentioned that your dad's family originally in the 20s were in the automobile business?
Yes, that's right.
Right, and it was successful until the Depression came.
And they lost everything. Yeah.
Right. So mom and dad get married. He's working for an engineering firm.
Right, Moog.
Okay, and then they go to Buffalo.
That's right.
You're one of four sons, one is deceased. You're born in Buffalo.
Yep.
From Buffalo, they come back to Philadelphia?
They go to Philadelphia. My dad took a new job in Philly.
Right, where you said he stayed there until his
death.
His death. So talk to me about growing up in Philly and what happened in the 4th grade. You went to parochial school at the beginning?
Well, in the beginning, that was actually when I was in Buffalo. I went to Catholic school. My dad was Presbyterian, my mom was Catholic. And she won. So we went to Catholic school. And I didn't fare well in Catholic school. In fact, my school teacher wrote on the back of my report card, Bobby thinks the rules don't apply to him, which was like the worst thing that a nun could say to you.
So what happened?
My mom pulled me out of Catholic school because she thought I was great.
Okay, and this is, you were like 8 years of age at this time.
That's right.
So when do you move back to Pennsylvania?
Yeah, when I was about 8.
So right after that, and you go to public school. What about your brothers? Did they go to
So my brothers started out, they went to grade school and Catholic school and then public school in Buffalo. They're older.
So tell me about growing up in Philadelphia.
We were in the suburbs, so it was sort of, you know, what you envision of suburban life. There's 10 years between my oldest brother and I, so he was off to college before I really knew him. And my dad was very strict from his military background. He had gone to military school since he was 6 years old, because that was sort of the fashion back then. If you were from a, you know, upper middle class family, you would often send your kids away.
So they didn't send you?
Well, I was the next generation.
You were the rebellious one.
Yeah, well, I would have gone to reform school,
You would have gone to reform school. So how do you get the job at working at the Jefferson Medical School cleaning test tubes?
Right, so I was able to get into this program in high school where they would, 2 days a week, I would leave school at about noon. And I don't even know how it originally happened, but I was very interested in immunology.
To get involved and interested in immunology at a young age, what caused it? I mean,
I think it might have been, so my dad, you know, died of heart disease. And at the time, one of the doctors had talked about a heart transplant, but there had been very few done at that point. This was in the mid-70s. And they said he was too old. He was 50.
right.
So anyway, I think that might have been the seed.
So that was
So
part
transplantation, immunology, they go hand in hand.
of this. How about the sewer plant? How did you get
The
the
sewer
job?
plant was just a way of making money when I was, you know, off during the summer in high school and
you got
college.
hit in the head, or what happened on the sewer plant?
Yeah, so I was unloading these preformed concrete blocks from an overhead crane, and the guy who was running the crane wasn't paying attention, and the thing hit me in the chest and drove me right through a form behind me into a skimming tank. And they pulled me out of there and sprayed me down.
Oh, you're lucky on that.
I got half a day off.
Now, when did you, since I know that you've always enjoyed cars, and we even have a picture of you with your Shelby, when did you get involved in the love for cars?
My dad, he loved the Mustangs.
And when did you get involved with hunting? Because in your office you have a lot of photos of you.
Yeah, that just came to me. No one in our family is a hunter. I loved being outdoors. I almost became a vet. And, when I was a kid, I would always be looking down to, see some little critter on the ground, and our house was filled with animals.
So how do you, after graduating high school, decide to go to St. Lawrence in Canton, New York?
Well, I had two brothers who went there and had a really good experience there. I got a scholarship.
Right, because you played football and lacrosse?
Played football and lacrosse, and I was a good student. And when my dad died, we were not financially prepared for what was going to come. And, people didn't have big life insurance policies then.
Right, and you said to me you spent like the last 2 years of your dad's, when he was sick, you were spending a lot of time with him planning for the future. And
yeah, so he would take me aside, usually on Sunday afternoons. I was 15 years old. Take me into his office, show me where things were. He told me that, Mom was going to have a really hard time. He knew he was dying. And in fact, he'd had several times where he had essentially died and then been resuscitated. And one of the things he said to me is, don't ever be afraid to die. It's not something that you should dread. So he must have had some kind of experience.
Right, with a premonition of that.
So he, so he was preparing me for being the man of the house, because all my older brothers were off at school.
Right, you were the young.
I was the youngest one, so.
So what happens when you're in St. Lawrence? Is that the first time that you get involved with Africa when you're an undergraduate?
Yeah, so during one of the summers, I spent 2.5 months in West Africa in a program. We were doing kind of public health things.
Right, it was like the Peace
immunizations,
Corps.
And yeah.
And then you come back.
Came back.
And then you continue St. Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
You graduate, but before you go to medical school, you go back to Africa?
I spent another year in Africa. So when I was in Africa, we were in the rural areas. Actually, back in the early 80s, there were places where they hadn't seen a lot of white people, and it was, some of the places that we were in were very remote. And so the traditional healers really were the only health care that these people had. So I got really interested in this sort of interface between Western medicine and traditional medicine. So when there was an opportunity to write a Watson Fellowship,
right,
which is sort of, we'll give you money, you go do whatever you've always wanted to do. I wrote about
healing and
traditional healing, studying traditional healing. This interplay, how to help coordinate traditional medicine with Western medicine to deliver good medicine in Africa. And so I did that, and I wandered all over Africa with a backpack for a year.
Is that when you applied to University of Rochester?
Yes.
Okay, so you're at University of Rochester.
Actually, when I was in at JFK Airport getting ready to fly out to Africa, I put my application in the mailbox.
Now, was this before the Madagascar experience or after?
Yeah, so this was before. The Madagascar experience took place during that year when I was wandering around Africa. studying traditional medicine.
So what happened is they put you in a holding cell in Madagascar?
Well, something like that. So basically it was mistaken identity. They thought I was a mercenary. I was big, had a big beard. I just come from South Africa. And back then, if you had been in South Africa, you couldn't travel to other parts of Africa. So I had 2 passports. And one of the people that I was in contact with there, who was going to introduce me to the traditional healers, was a pediatrician who studied in Paris. And this was during the Cold War. And Madagascar was part of the Soviet Union, at least a protectorate of the Soviet Union. And so when I arrived there, my friend, who had been friends with the former president who had been assassinated during a coup, we happened to run into the vice president who was under house arrest at the airport, and he introduced me to him. Right. So that sealed my fate.
Fortunately, you came back, because otherwise we wouldn't have had one of the leading kidney and transplant doctors from around the world. Let's go to Rochester. You're at Rochester. How do you decide when you're in Rochester that you want to get involved with kidneys and general surgery? Well,
so when I was on my medicine rotation, I took care of a patient who had a kidney transplant and had this mysterious illness that nobody could figure out. We finally took him to the operating room, took a piece of his lung, and it was this new disease called Legionnaire's disease, Legionella. And I spent basically 2 months with he and his family, and just was so interested in, the transplantation part of it. But when I first set foot in an operating room, I knew that these were my people, that I was going to be a surgeon. But I really like medicine too, so I chose a field where you could do both.
I know that when you were at Hopkins, the operating room, you had the music playing.
I do.
You finish Rochester, you start rotation at Hopkins, or you go now for your PhD in Oxford. When do you go to Oxford?
So I went to Hopkins and I did 2 years of general surgery training. And then I went to Oxford after that.
And that's with the
and
Fulbright.
Did a PhD.
Right, and that's the Fulbright Scholarship. You come back to Hopkins. And
finish my training. Then I do my transplant training. And then I come on as a young staff member.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the transplants and the kidneys and the domino effect.
Right. So we had a young lady who came from the Midwest. This was in the late 90s. And she basically said, I want to give my kidney to anybody who needs it. So this had never been done before. And we decided to give her kidney to a child. She brought a publicist with her. So it was on the news, got a lot of play. The next day we had 50 people who called.
Who wanted to give kidney?
I want to give my kidney too. This started this whole movement, and she was trying to start a revolution. She had been a transplant coordinator. So anyway, we started giving these kidneys to all the children on our list. And we eventually transplanted all the kids. So then we had to decide, so who should have priority to get one of these kidneys? I had another patient at the time who needed a transplant very badly, had a live donor, but they were incompatible with the live donor. So basically, it just was like a eureka moment. I thought, well, why don't we take a kidney from one of these altruistic donors, give it to that recipient, and start a chain of transplants.
So that's the domino effect.
That's the domino effect.
And that's how you got into the Guinness Book of World Records for what?
The most transplants done in one day.
So before we get to NYU, which took place 2 years ago, Let's talk about, you've written more than 200 journals, you've spoken around the world. One day you're on a plane to Paris, what happens? And you meet...
Right, so I was flying from Washington to Paris, and then on to Italy.
Right.
And I was sitting in the terminal, and I saw this young child, just had learned to walk.
Right,
that was pretty
2
obvious.
years of age, right?
Right. And she's running around on the moving conveyor belt, and this beautiful woman appears and starts chasing her around. So I noticed them then, got on the plane, and I saw the woman coming down the aisle, and the person who sits next to you is never that person that you want to have sit next to you, right? But this time she did. And she walked up and she said, "Today's your lucky day."
Right, and she had this 2-year-old,
Right.
Ella, who she had given birth, they thought she couldn't give him birth. Okay.
Right.
And Ella's DVD wasn't working, right?
Yeah, so Denise opened up her DVD and it hadn't been charged. And she looked up and said, "This is going to be a long flight." So I had my laptop.
You were going to work on slides. For
I always wait, till the last minute to do my slides. So, because I was giving a presentation in Sardinia. And so I said, "Oh, well, she can use my laptop," which had a DVD player.
When did you find out that she was a world-renowned opera singer?
We talked all night long. We didn't sleep at all. So she told me about her life. I told her about mine, and there were a lot of similarities, actually.
But did you tell her that you had never seen an opera in your life?
Yeah, she asked me, "Do you know anything about opera?" And I said, "The only thing I know about opera, I learned watching Bugs Bunny." She was not impressed with that answer.
So what happens is she gets off the plane, and you have some time in between because she's going to Paris.
She was living in Paris
at that time.
I was coming back through Paris from Sardinia to come back to Washington. The flights didn't line up, so I had this layover in Paris, and we met.
Right,
again.
and then you went to the birthday party for Ella.
That's right.
Distant email, telephone relationship worked out.
Letters, yeah.
Right, and then,
I call it a Victorian courtship.
right,
That's really what it was.
So then it was 2006. You got married, but as a
2009.
2009 when you got married.
Yeah.
Now you had 3 weddings. Tell me about the.
We had 3 weddings. Well, my wife's an opera singer, so everything is dramatic. Now, she would say that actually I was the architect of the 3 weddings, but
Right.
that's not true.
So the first wedding was where?
First wedding was in a chapel at the National Cathedral, and that was in June 2009.
Then Africa.
Then we got married in Africa. I had all these ties to Africa, and it was in my skin, and I told her I wanted to get married there. So we had a Maasai wedding in the Maasai Mara.
And then you come back to America.
We come back to the U.S. The African wedding was in August, and then we had our big wedding, our public wedding, in September. And that was at the National Cathedral.
So now it's 2016, right? And you get a phone call from a guy named Brotman, or what happens?
Right, so I was very happy at Johns Hopkins. I'd been there for 30 years. We'd done some great things. We had this period of innovation when we were the most interesting and innovative transplant program probably in the world. And
Done more than 1,000 kidney.
yeah. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm, gonna retire at Hopkins, get a portrait on the wall. Yeah, well, that wasn't to be. There was going to be a disruptive force that was about to enter my life, and that was Andy Brotman. And he called me and said, our transplant program is experiencing some difficulties, and we'd like you to come up and give us your opinions on what we should do. So I came up, and by the afternoon I realized it was a job interview. And I met with the dean.
Right, but it wasn't a transplant. It wasn't kidney. It was that they wanted you to head the transplant program, which included kidneys, livers, lungs, heart, and facial, right?
At the time, they didn't know that. I mean, they wanted something to happen. They had confidence in me that I could make something happen. But in terms of the architect of this Transplant Institute, that was something that I, after I left my meeting with the dean, he said, tell me what you think transplantation is going to look like in the future, and what a transplant center, how it should be run, how it should be organized.
Right, and now with the new Kimmel building, it'll be self-contained, everything in that building.
We're going to have a whole floor of that building for all the transplant organs, including bone marrow transplant. And so, that's what we did. We organized all of transplantation under one roof. We started a heart program. We started a bone marrow program. We started a lung transplant program.
With like a minute and a half left, tell me about the family. We know about Denise. We know about Ella. Tell me about the other kids.
So my oldest daughter is Liz. She lives in Brooklyn, and she's blessed us with a grandchild. And then John, who's at the University of Chicago in the business school, and he's doing a PhD in math. He formerly was on Wall Street. And then there's Max, who's 15, and he lives with his mom in Uzbekistan. His mom's married to an ambassador. And then Ella, who lives with us here in Manhattan, who's 13, and a budding singer.
So medicine was there. It was destined to be. But I think what destined to be today is the creation of the transplant program, and NYU Langone in New York City is very lucky to have you, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you.